Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me today, it's been a while, it's been so long we should have him wearing a red shirt, Tom Knighton from Bearing Arms. I call him the Attitude at Bearing Arms is joining us. Tom, thanks for coming along today, man.
Happy to be here, as always.
Got a lot of stuff to talk about, but I gotta do this to start with, man. It's been a couple months. For those who Tom and I are not fighting. We don't have issues between each other. Reason you don't see Tom as much anymore is I had to change scheduling, and now Monday, all the shows start an hour later than they used to. The Monday show, if you back that start time up an hour, goes right up against Polite Society podcasts. So I just eliminated the Monday broadcast of the Bullet, and that meant Tom isn't here as much. So nothing personal, just that scheduling demanded it. Want to mention as we get started, if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook on the Polite Society podcast channels, comment on those videos. We'll get those comments, get them up on the air right away. We'll talk about them, and we'll laugh with you. And if the comments are inappropriate enough, we'll laugh at you. So,
Or both.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm flexible.
Well, yeah, and you all can see me. I mean, if my picture showed up there, it would be laughed at. So, let's go ahead and get started here. Where am I getting a bing from? Let me stop that because that does not need to happen. There. Now my phone will shut up.
Your phone's just excited I was here.
Telling you, man, everybody's excited you're here.
So, me and you.
Yeah. Well, there is that. There is that. Let's get started. And everything we've got in news today is a Tom Knighton article from the. Let's face it, Tom hasn't been here in a couple months, so we've got a little bit to talk about. But one that hit today, actually, it hit about 3.5 hours ago. The headline reads, "Ghost guns aren't the end of the world, but the end of gun control." You want to talk to us a little bit about that article, Tom? And then there's one quote from the source article I want to get to.
Well, sure. This was a discussion held in Massachusetts, so it was really pro-gun central. But the basic gist of it was you were talking about so-called ghost guns, unserialized firearms, there's a lot of people who they're afraid of them. The media has really done a good job of putting out that these are this growing threat. Granted, when you actually look at the numbers that we get from the ATF and put them in context, it's a nothing. It's a big nothing. It really is. But this is people are worried about it, and so they were talking about it, and there were some pro-gun folks there that had some very valid points. But for me, the gist of it boils down to you are not putting that genie back in the bottle. Ghost guns, 3D printed guns in particular, it's over. Any hope you had of keeping guns out of the hands of criminals, you didn't have any to begin with, but if there was a hope, it's gone. So, it's time to start looking at something else.
Yeah.
Literally anything else other than trying to control guns.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm doing something I should have done a long time ago. I pulled up just now on Amazon I just did a search for 3D printers, and they start at $159.
Yep. A decent one for making a gun, you're looking at probably around 200.
Yeah.
But, the truth of the matter is, find a decent gun you can buy for less than $200.
And they've got one here that, wow, $313. This would certainly do that. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna save that one to my shopping cart because, wow, that's I'm not into 3D printing yet, but
it's neat.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I'm not a gadget person generally. My dad was really big into gadgets, but yeah, that was just not something that appealed to me. But 3D printing technology literally fascinates me.
Want to
There's
get
so many applications I can see.
a comment in here from Charlie Cook, riding shotgun with Charlie. The article in the Lowell Sun called me Patrick Cook, and that is the article that I want to get this quote
It
off
is.
of.
I had no idea that was Charlie.
uh,
It said Patrick. What did I know?
the quote I have here is from Mike Harris, Director of Public Policy at Gun Owners Action League. We can put people on double secret probation all we want, Harris said, but making something extra illegal, it's still illegal. And he called the state's gun laws the most confusing set of laws I've ever seen. I'll say, because Massachusetts is trying to pretend not to be pro-gun while being just about as egregious as New Jersey, New York, California. They're just trying to pretend not to be. So I can imagine where that would lead to a lot of confusion.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's hilarious when I see David Hogg on Twitter going, you know, we need Massachusetts style gun control. Oh dear God. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not like Massachusetts is new at being anti-gun. I mean, they've been at it for a while. Nobody's fooled.
No, not at all.
I mean,
Not at all. Well, and what do you expect out of the state that gives us the Boston Bruins? I mean, come on.
you know, but at one time they, you know, I expect better out of them because they also gave us the Boston Tea Party.
They did. They
You know,
absolutely did.
you really, when you think about the fact, this is the state that when the redcoats came to take guns, they shot them,
Yep.
and then they shot at them the whole way back.
The Battle of Lexington and Concord was
Yeah.
in Massachusetts. That's where our nation quite literally was born, in Massachusetts.
And a lot of people don't realize that when the British marched to Lexington and Concord, it was to take arms from the colonists.
Yes.
It
Cannons
was
specifically.
Right, but it was still gun confiscation. And how did Massachusetts residents at the time respond? They shot them
A lot.
a lot. And then when the British went on their way back, they chased them and shot at them and took pot shots the whole way home. That's how you deal with it, baby.
All right, let's get a couple more comments in here. Charlie Cook again following up with Mike Harris was at AmCon and GRPC last year. And Robert, I love this comment. Robert Pasrina says, I like my coffee with cream and sugar and my tea in the harbor.
America. I will admit, I like drinking hot tea from time to time. I am trying to find a Boston Harbor mug, for just so I can do it the right way.
There you
Is
go.
that every American should put their tea in the harbor.
Yes. Yes. Maybe I should go do another Amazon search. But anyway,
I've been looking for a while. I haven't found one I like yet.
all right. And yeah, there's the frustration. This is supposed to be a listening tour. And I've talked to Charlie Cook about this. I've talked to Carrie Ann Auclair, who is on Polite Society, about this. And because these happen on Mondays, they've missed the past few shows. But what it seems to me is it's a legislature, the Massachusetts state legislature is not a listening tour. It's they're going throughout the state and you listen to us tour.
Well, it's a listening tour. It's just who's doing the listening.
Yeah.
You know, we have to remember that people who have the authoritarian impulse to control guns will have an authoritarian impulse elsewhere. And
Yeah.
in this case, what we're seeing is these listening tours are, listen here, you little snot.
Very much just
And
before
I-
we shoot them all the way back to the bay.
And I want everyone watching to appreciate the fact that I changed the last word to snot, which is not my typical way I use that phrase.
I appreciate that because that lets us keep our clean record, our clean designation when this goes out on podcasts. So, next story I want to get to, again, released today. New Jersey residents supposedly want gun control regardless of Bruin. I'm sorry, was that external? Yeah. Thank you.
That was clearly a sneeze. I don't care what anyone else says. That was clearly a sneeze.
Off the story, that what you get from the source article is the latest Rutgers/Eagleton poll found 61% of New Jersey residents disagree with the Supreme Court ruling last year in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin, commonly known as the Bruin decision. According to the data, 92% of the respondents support firearm safety training courses, a component of the new law judge allowed to remain in place. At least 67% of New Jerseyans said they also supported requiring permit holders to purchase insurance to carry a firearm in public and banning concealed carry on private property unless the property owner explicitly allows it. What I'm going to say to this is you can make a poll say anything you want it to say by the way you phrase the questions and the way you pick your sampling.
It's a lot easier to get those results when you lie about what the Bruin decision was. As I get into on that, Firearms Policy Coalition had a great tweet. They looked at the poll, and what that poll was, it described the Bruin decision as saying that it prohibited licensing requirements completely. In other words, they said, "Oh, this turned everything constitutional carry." Well, a lot of people who aren't familiar with firearms and firearm politics and firearm statistics are looking at that going, "Oh my God, anybody can carry a gun." Well, it's not the end of the world, but that's also not what the Bruin decision said. It removed the show a good cause requirement, which New Jersey had in place, and that's what it was about. They straight out lied about what the Bruin decision read. They could say, "Well, we made a mistake." No, that's not a mistake. You completely misrepresented it, and then put the poll out and said, "Oh, how do you feel on this?" And then the next question was, do you think there should be people should have to show cause to carry a permit? And it was like 58% or something. I don't remember off the top of my head. It was still pretty high, but I kind of wondered how many of these people didn't realize that self-defense was not considered a valid reason to get a permit in New Jersey.
Yeah.
I've had readers from New Jersey reach out to me off and on throughout my entire time at Bearing Arms, lamenting the fact they could not get a carry permit because their reason was general self-defense. They didn't have a specific threat. They weren't carrying large sums of money. They weren't doing anything like that. They were ordinary law-abiding citizens who wanted to keep themselves safe from criminals. And let's face it, this is New Jersey. This is not exactly, Nebraska. It's not rural, Alaska. This is an area where, some parts of New Jersey in particular are very bad about crime. And they wanted to defend themselves and were told, no, it's not a good reason. And we don't know how many respondents actually understood this fact.
We're going to be getting to crime here later in the show. Want to get this comment in here quick. Robert, who is from New Jersey, said, "I took a poll at my gun club and 100% of New Jersey residents didn't want any gun control." I'd say Robert's poll is just about as accurate as the other one, wouldn't you?
Pretty much. Something Firearms Policy Coalition pointed out in their tweet, though, was that, with the misunderstanding that the Bruin decision was supposedly, constitutional carry, something like 43% of New Jersey residents still supported it.
Nice.
So, almost half of New Jersey people were like, "Oh, we shouldn't have to. We don't have to have permits anymore." Hell yeah, baby.
There you go, America. Yeah, and
yeah, land of the free, baby.
even in New Jersey, there are real people, and I've had close associations with several people in New Jersey that are fighting very, very hard for our rights.
There are real people, and there's John Petrolino.
Okay.
I hope to God John's watching right now.
If not,
the
I
record,
know,
guys,
I
John's a
know
friend.
Charlie is. Charlie, if you would send John Petrolino the link for this
Yes.
show, so he can watch it when the boat isn't doing 6-foot pitch ups and downs,
Yes.
or
I'll send
maybe
it to
while
him.
it is.
Then you can blame that for the nauseous feeling.
Wow,
John's a good friend. I like teasing him.
oh yeah, and I John he came to AmCon last year, and he has spoken at AmCon, and one thing I want to give John props for. He does research like nobody else I know does research. He gets
Yeah.
deep, and he shared a lot of his secrets. Not all of them, but he shared a lot of his secrets with us at AmCon last year, and I greatly thank him for it. I still go through it and watch that segment. But
John came on Bearing Arms a while back, and he's just he's written some great stuff for us. But one day he was like, hey, do we have a minimum word count? I'm like, dude, you're not even close.
yeah,
You have nothing to worry. He's like, you're like, you're fine. I've read your stuff. Sometimes I have to come back later to finish reading it, but he gets into there. It's everybody, everyone's got their own way to do stuff, and for me, it's attitude. For him, it's research,
yeah.
and it works.
It does. It does. Let me get another comment in here. Robert says, "Hey, I'm south of the Mason-Dixon line. He escaped."
Well, the best people are south of the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah. Yeah, Roderick over on the Facebook side says, a poll in New Jersey would probably say that 75% think that conservative news should be banned.
Not wrong.
And also from Robert, they don't want those people to have guns, says the New Jersey state president or Senate president. Dude, that's been a few months ago. Do you remember that, Tom, where he was specifically talking about, I want to say it was Elizabethtown, maybe. It was a heavily African American district, and he was saying,
Yeah.
do we really want people of this district to have guns?
And the answer is yes.
Yeah, absolutely we do.
Any law-abiding should be able to get a gun.
I want to get to the next story. This one, this is stunning. Colorado gun control groups demand counter to movement claims. This is a unique one. This Here for the Kids is a group supposedly based in Colorado. Realistically, it's based on Facebook, is where it's
Yeah.
located. But they say they're a Colorado group, and they have some interesting things they want the governor to do. You want to go into that one?
Yeah, they are currently trying to get 25,000 white women. Let's be specific. That's their word. They want 25,000 white women to show up at the Capitol steps, and they want them to stay there in Colorado as long as it takes to get Governor Jared Polis to issue an executive order banning guns.
And they're not talking
restriction-
AR-15s.
No, guns, all of them. We're always told, hey, we want common sense gun control. No one wants to ban guns. Of course, Gabby Gifford said, she wanted to get rid of all the guns. And this group's coming right out and saying, they want Polis to issue an executive order.
And
the
leader
mastermind
of this,
behind this is an attorney.
yes, that's where I was going. The leader of this group is an attorney and ought to know how laws get made.
Well, and it's not just some random attorney who, maybe she deals with like personal injury or anything. Uh, I, I may be mispronouncing her name. It's Sairo Rao, Sairo Rao. Uh, she's been knee deep in politics for a while. I've seen her stuff on Twitter off and on for years. She has been involved in politics, in discussing it, debating it, arguing about it on social media for long enough. She doesn't have an excuse. She doesn't. There's none.
I'm going to
If
read
this
it.
was somebody who never known anything about politics or government, you cut them a little slack.
Yeah. I'm going to read their a little bit of their press release that's on that you excerpted in your article. Here for the Kids movement calls on Colorado Governor Jared Polis to sign an executive order to ban guns and implement a statewide buyback program. To achieve this goal, we are organizing a sit-in of 25,000 plus white women from around the country on Monday, June the 5th at 5 a.m. in Denver, Colorado. Couple things here. I think, if I remember right, doesn't their following on Facebook a total number of around 48,000? And
Instagram, they have 56,000. I remember when I looked on Facebook, I thought they only had like 2,200.
okay, all right,
But most of their stuff was on Instagram, which would mean, of course, they would have to get at least half of their total Instagram following to
and
drop literally everything,
mm-hmm.
fly in from all over the country to just show up in Colorado and demand a given state unconstitutionally ban all firearms and the governor to just declare there was going to be a buyback, even though he has no power to do any of that.
Well, and I
mean,
wonder.
let's be honest, if Gavin Newsom hadn't banned guns, Polis ain't going to do it.
Yeah, I want to know how they're going to do that while not increasing their carbon footprint, because that's really important to this crowd.
Yeah, and something I want to add, because we're focusing on the whole white women. The argument is that activism has been carried out on the backs of minorities, and so white women need to start pulling their weight.
Yeah. Don't ever mention
sure
white women and weight in the same sentence, man. You're flirting
I
with
was about
disaster.
to say, I don't know if she's trying to call them fat or not. I'm not. I'm paraphrasing. But no, I mean, it's Rao is very much into identity politics. That's her shtick. She's probably one of the most racist people I've seen on Twitter, and that's having seen like people like Richard Spencer on there, who are literal white supremacists. So that's saying something.
Yeah.
Everything about his identity politics, she managed to find a way to make identity politics into the gun debate in a new and interesting way. I got to give her credit for that. So, well done, Ms. Rao. Well done. I do give points for originality, for even if it's stupid.
I want to get a couple comments in here, both of them from Robert. First one, he says, is Colorado's governor a dictator? Well, not. He'd love to be, but last I checked, no. Yeah. He wants to know if the 48,000 includes even the bots.
Yes. I did nothing to differentiate between live accounts and bots. I didn't care that much, because if there had been like 16 million, wanting 25,000 isn't a huge ask.
Right.
It's not. When you've got 56,000 and you want 25, ain't happening. And Cam had actually talked about these guys a little bit before I did, and relayed an article where someone was interested and they reached out, and just a few minutes later they got a call back. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that if you're trying to rally 25,000 people to show up and stay as long as necessary in a different state than they live in, and you're having a really good feedback on that, you're not getting back to anyone within a couple of minutes.
Yeah. No.
You're not.
And we need to move on to the next story, but I want what I'm wondering is, come June 6th, what are we going to hear from these people? Because I'm guessing that's going to be about the same amount of people that show up. as people in red shirts that show up at the NRA annual meetings every year. There will be a dozen or so.
Yeah. Right. Well, what I actually expect is for Al to be women. It wasn't that she had this impossible ask. It's white women aren't pulling, aren't taking the emotional burden off minorities.
Okay.
Put me in the pull down for 10 on that one.
All right. I want to get to our last story here. Soros-backed group wants to see how badly they can screw up Chicago is the headline over on Bearing Arms. As Chicago faces sky-high crime rates and an exodus of major corporations, a left-wing group funded by Democratic megadonors George Soros and Pete Odemeyer is calling on the Windy City's far-left mayor to slash the police force and raise taxes on businesses. Long and short of this one is they want to cut officers in the Chicago PD by 1,000 currently empty positions. They just don't want to fill those positions anymore, and terminate those job fillings. And they also want to increase the tax by any employer, if I've got this right in my head, that employs 50 people or more. That business is going to have to pay $33 per employee tax to the city. And what that tax is for, I don't know, but that will ensure any business with 50 or more people, at 49 you're okay. When you're going to look for that 50th person, you need to be looking to move to Kankakee.
Yeah. Well, what we do know is that $33 per person won't be going for law enforcement. We know that, so we got that. They got that going for them. It's like Chicago is the poster child for dangerous cities. Statistically, it's not the most dangerous city. It's not it's up there, but it's not the pinnacle. But it is a very large, visible city. It has had a violent crime problem for a long, long time. It's been called Chirac. It's a war zone in a lot of ways. I was there in the 90s.
Yeah.
I went through training not that far from there. That's where we went on the weekends because, hey, man, it's Chicago. They got all the bars and all the clubs, with scantily clad women that, young sailors want to visit. Not that I ever went to such a place.
No, not you, Tom.
No. I don't have any recollections of a place called Top Shelf. Yeah. But it wasn't a particularly safe city then, especially if you were in uniform. But it's not exactly gotten better since 1993, and we know this. This is well documented. Lori Lightfoot, the now former mayor, it was something she had to deal with, and she was on one hand trying to play the progressive card, on the other hand, she was also recognizing that you've got to use the police to combat crime. You can't just wish it away. And yet that's pretty much what this group is really trying to do. And the current mayor of Chicago was a defund the police guy back in 2020.
Yeah.
And he's worked with this group before, and they're along parallel lines, which means there's a good chance this could happen.
Yeah,
in which case, if you live in Chicago, move.
Yeah, like I said, Kankakee, quickly. Downstate, there's a lot of really good places south and north of there. Go up to Waukegan. Go up to Milwaukee. Well, Milwaukee maybe not so much. Green Bay. But
you used to take the train, but have a train right outside the base that went from Chicago to Milwaukee, back and forth the whole time. There's tons of places you can go that's still easy to get into the city without a hassle. Do it for your own safety.
Absolutely. Well, Tom, we are at the bottom of the hour, man. Before we take off, I hear whisperings that there may be another podcast in the offing. Anything you can say about that right now?
Well, it's in the works. People who've been watching a long time may recognize that I've got a better camera and a much different microphone. So I am in the process of getting it set up. There, no date. Working on a title. Go through one past Paul that he really liked, so that might well be it. But I will keep you informed.
Very cool. And Tom is going to be coming back on not what we've discussed is when somebody has something come up and cannot make it, I'm going to call on Tom. So I want Tom to be back often. Maybe not as often as he used to be, but Tom is going to be here as often as our schedules can mesh. Let's put it that way.
Right, right, and like you said at the start, there's no animosity. We haven't been fighting. It was just a matter of logistically, it wasn't going to work out any longer. And immediately we talked about possibly doing this. This is actually the first time we've been able to actually make the schedules click.
Yeah.
It's come up a couple of times before. Either I couldn't do it or I didn't get the notification until it was a little too late. But, it really depends on how much notice Paul has as to how much notice he can give me.
Yep.
And it's easier to juggle that way. But if I'm available and I get the notification in time, I'll be back.
Very cool. Everybody can find your stuff at Bearing Arms, and if you would also plug your Substack stuff, because that's good stuff.
Yeah, I've got you can just go to tomknighton.substack.com. It's called Tilting at Windmills. Come check it out. Read it. You got free subscription, and then there's paid that has more cool stuff.
Very
Just give
cool.
me money.
Very cool. That's
like
going to
food.
do it for the for the bullet for the Monday through Friday. I do too many shows. It's going to do it for the bullet today. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Podcast listeners, thank you for listening. And do consider coming to join us Monday through Friday, usually at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you next time.